Peace, y'all. Before we get started, I felt compelled to remind everyone to stay safe and stay abreast of all the atrocities happening around the world. The people of Palestine, Tigray, Congo, Sudan, Haiti, and countless other territories are currently fighting for their rights and their lives. And if you're choosing to take action, please take every precaution you can. Stay hydrated, stay in groups, cover your face, and please, more than anything, don't lose hope. I've been leaving links to organizations and resources at the bottom of every episode description for a good minute, so please go check those out for places to donate and to find ways to take action today. We're not free until all oppressed people in the States and abroad are free. Much love, stay strong. Now let's keep this shit moving. What's good, y'all? My name is Dylan Green, and this is Real Notes, a space dedicated to blurring the cultural and artistic lines between rap and film. I'm here to chop it up with everyone from rappers and producers to journalists and video directors about their relationship to movies and how, if at all, film inspires their craft. My guest for the season 4 finale is Chicago via Florida rapper Blvck Svm. We spoke about Pig, The Menu, Uncut Gems, the Will Ferrell comedy Kicking and Screaming, being inspired by MF Doom, Lil Wayne, and Valee, the first night he ever performed, the intersection of rap and food, the creative process behind his latest album, michelinman, his Bvck of House video shoots, and his upcoming restaurant tour. For the last time in 2024, come fuck with us. What's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to what I literally just seconds ago realized is the last. This is a season 4 finale. Season 4 finale of Real Notes. Damn, I can't believe we're already at the end of the year. Thanks everybody for the support. It means the world that y'all give a shit about anything I have to say at all. Thank you to all my patrons. That community has been slowly growing. I'm trying to have some fun with the Discord. We just talk about movies and music and bullshit. Come fuck with us if you're not over there yet. If you got a little change to spare, and even if not, like, I love you. We're here. My name's Dylan Green, CineMasai. Got a lot of names, do a lot of shit outside, inside, all sides. Incredibly grateful for this incredible 2024 that I've had, and I'm ending it with somebody very, 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 very special. That I don't even know how to put. So I got hip to Sun's music fairly recently. And it like the first thing that caught me about this special guest's music was his voice. And just, these are ASMR raps, and they're very beautiful and like super detailed, and they reward close listening in ways that a lot of music, like, not even just today, because I'm not that type of person, but like music generally doesn't necessarily encourage listening this close. And like doing that with this new project and all the older stuff has been it's been a pleasure. His shit is so tender, all you need is a fork to just come in and just kind of pick it apart on some shit. We got the brother Blvck Svm in the building today. Florida bred, Chicago based. michelinman is out everywhere now. It's fucking awesome. It's a really, really nice, y'all need some greens in your diet, and this is some greens. So I'm sorry I cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, I appreciate you, man. You've been killing these intros. I've been listening. I've been on the YouTube all the past couple weeks listening to these intros. You've been snapping.
Thank you, bro. Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know. Like, y'all, like, this is like, I'm here to roll out the red carpet. Just like, man, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're busy as hell. You've been doing all, like, we were just talking about it off camera. Like, you've been doing all these like Bvck of House shoots for all these songs, and like really giving this album such a unique and interesting rollout that actually, I guess we need a little bit of context here, because you and I first connected back in March when I interviewed you for Vinyl Me Please, when you and Pilot Kid's album was getting reissued through them. Shout out to the good folks at VMP.
Mm-hmm.
And you told me about the whole concept for this, and I was like, oh, like I had never. Anyway, I'm talking too much. So it's like it's dope. It's dope to see you it's dope to get to see this roll out and actually happen, you know? So like, thank you for the angle and the uniqueness and just for the work and for being here. Appreciate you.
No, I appreciate you for having me. I honestly appreciate you for sitting down with me with VMP. Shout out VMP. But that conversation, saying it out loud, I think that might have been the first time I really said the idea. And that was very helpful for me, as I think it is with most people, just putting it out into the world. Like, this is what I'm trying to do this year. This is what I'm trying to do this month, or whatever it is. So that gave me some extra motivation to actually make it happen, because it was a great link up. We might have to go back to that spot that we went to next time I'm in New York. That shit was fire.
Yeah, I got the menu somewhere in my crib right now. I can't remember where I put it, but yeah, no, I think I think I don't. What did you have? Remind me what you had.
I had the fritters. It was like
Right.
It might have been like I wasn't cod, but it was like spiced. It was a spiced fish fritter, and they were really good. And I haven't had those at any other Caribbean spot, I don't think. I usually I grab the oxtail, I grab rice and peas, and that's about it. But they had more interesting stuff on the menu than most of the spots that I've been to. So I was like, let me see what they got going on, and they got it. So I got to be back over there.
Yeah, that's nice. See, I was so basic. I think I just got like chicken and rice and peas. I was so basic that day. I didn't even finish most of it, but it was delicious.
Yeah.
Man, I'm gonna remember their name later, but they were dope. So yeah, it'll come back to me. But we got a lot to talk about. I'm so happy for this to be the conversation to end my year. It'll be a really nice palate cleanser. So I'm gonna ask you the first question I ask everybody who comes on here, which is what was the last movie or TV show you watched that you had a strong opinion about?
It was Pig, which stars Nicolas Cage. That's the most recent movie that gave me that kind of emotional reaction that I don't typically get from movies or from TV shows, but this one caught me super off guard. So tell me about it, because I watched Pig. I think I watched Pig for the first time a couple of years ago, like after it had been in the theater. But like, talk to me about your experience with Pig, because that movie's fucking crazy. Yeah, no, I had seen it, the banner for it a few times while I would scroll through Hulu, and I thought the premise seemed pretty interesting. I honestly thought it was going to be one of those movies like, do you remember Public Enemy with Gerard Butler, I think, was the star of it? Kinda. That sounds a little, because I remember the movie Public Enemies with Johnny Depp and some other people. I think one of them played John Derringer. I don't know. I'm clearly thinking of the wrong movie. I might have the name wrong, but I'm thinking of this movie, or this trope where the main character is wronged in some way, like his wife or his kids get killed, and then they go on a rampage and they find every person who did the thing and they just destroy them in the craziest way possible. I thought that's what this movie was going to be. Like, I thought it was going to be like Nicolas Cage tracking down his truffle pig and going after everybody in like the most absurd, violent kind of way. And I was somewhat interested in watching it because of that, but I really was like, the pull was the truffle pig. I was like, I've never really seen a movie centered around this. Maybe it's about food, whatever. So I'm watching the movie, and I realized about halfway through, like, this is not what I expected at all. There was a lot of emotional depth to it. I feel like you could really feel, I think his name was Robin Feld in the movie. You could really feel what he was going through, and in the people that he was interacting with, and how unhelpful a lot of them were for what he was trying to accomplish. But by the end of the movie, bro, I was like, there were tears in my eyes. And I can't remember the last time I had that experience from a movie. It honestly might have been when I was like 7 and I saw the SpongeBob movie, and they were on that board in the gift shop, and they
Yeah, Shell City.
yeah, they were in Shell City. I thought they died. Like, I felt my heart break in that moment. And I was like, that was me as a child thinking that my two heroes are gone. But fast forward like 20 years to me watching this movie and just feeling all of that feeling that he had in the moment where he like fell to his knees in dude's study.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't expecting the movie to be such a poignant take on grief and on loss. And like, as somebody who's experienced those things and it continues to experience those feelings, like even now, and especially in the past few years, it just hit me in a place that I wasn't really expecting it to hit me. Like, it kind of cup checked me. And
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. Like, I had to sit with it for a minute to like recollect myself, but there was something so unexpected about what the movie was and how it ended that I really appreciate. And I think I kind of want to lean into finding more movies that do that.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those, like, so for anybody who doesn't know, Pig is a movie where Nicolas Cage plays this, at the time, he was like a relatively famous chef out in Portland. It takes place out on the West Coast. Um, you know, like Ben was saying, this movie is like, he has a truffle pig, and somebody captures the truffle pig, and he spends the whole movie trying to get this pig back. That's basically, like that's the inciting incident. That's the framing device. Like, there's a pig, he's trying to get it. Like, like off top, it sounds like it would be like a John Wick type situation,
Yeah.
like you were saying before. But this is yeah, it's a little more meditative and a little. It's a lot calmer. Like, there's action scenes. There's like the one scene I always remember is the fight in the butcher shop.
Yeah.
When they're going at it for like a little bit, but it's not like John Wick or like Nobody or like there's this Bob Odenkirk movie called Nobody where he's where he's like a schlubby dad who's like actually like a fucking like black agent assassin or some crazy shit. But like, it's nothing like that. It's like the like like you said, you would imagine this type of movie would be that, but this just isn't. And it turns out to be the type of thing that I would expect Nicolas Cage to make anyway. Like,
Yeah.
it feels so typical of his style and like the stuff that he tends to lean toward, especially now. But yeah, I mean, like I remember the ending too, because I mean, like, if y'all don't want spoilers for Pig, please skip ahead a couple minutes. I want to talk about the ending to Pig because this movie is fucking great. The pig dies, unfortunately. Like, like, it just gets to the point where too much stuff happens. He's been doing the goose chase for the last however long, and eventually, whoever's handling the pig, I don't remember all the details, but whoever the pig's handler is winds up being too rough. Pig dies. And then the movie just ends with Nicolas Cage's character wiping some blood off his face, playing a Bruce Springsteen song, and just like crying over this pig. It's really rough. It's a crazy rough ending. Like not a happy ending.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I agree. Like, it didn't bring me to tears, but I definitely felt like it was a powerful moment. Like, definitely, like I was locked in and was just like, I don't know, because like there's like such a I hate to use a word like this, like not in writing, but like there's like an interiority to Nicolas Cage's performance that just because it's like it's not like an intense, like it's got moments of intensity, but it's not like what I would call an intense performance at all. Like, it's really very much like you can tell he's holding a lot back, and occasionally he'll have like an outburst or whatever, but it's like the whole thing is just so interior and intimate's the wrong word, but it's, I don't know, there's just something really like quiet about this movie.
Yeah.
And just like and like that to me makes the more emotional beats kind of sneak up on you in that way. And it's like, and of course, like to make the obvious connection, like it's a movie about a chef. It's a movie about like this restaurant he used to work for is super nice, and he himself is like a really like he's like Bourdain, except like not like he's not like the personable crazy dude with the TV show, but he's like as famous as Anthony Bourdain. Like
Yeah.
everybody knows who he is. Like he just shows up and people are like, oh it's Rob Feld or whatever his name is. Like, so it's like I hadn't seen a movie of that stripe kind of dip into the area of like fine dining and chefing and shit
Yeah.
the way this did. It was like an interesting combination of shit. Like it just worked. I thought it was real cool.
Yeah. And there were just throughout the movie there were those punch points that were just like I said, this movie kind of hit me where I wasn't expecting it to hit me at the end, but that was set up by the fact that Nicolas Cage's character didn't really emote at all for
Right.
the first 95%. Like the initial 95% of the movie, he was just this kind of emotionally distant, reserved, like sort of gruff character who of course cares about this pig. You can tell that he cares about this pig by the way that he's going about tracking down this pig and all the things that he's doing throughout the movie, but you don't really get the sense that of how emotionally tied up he is until he has that moment at the end alongside the dad of the dude that those were the truffle guys.
Yeah, the truffle guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that moment, not realizing what he was doing while he was picking up those ingredients was really cool. Like it didn't snap into focus what he was doing until he got to Dude's crib. And the moment that the dad had with the food, where he was just like blubbering at the table and had to leave because it was a powerful moment for him. And the moment when he was in the restaurant in Eurydice, which I named one of the tracks on my album after that.
I was gonna say
in that scene where the chef is just the chef who's currently heading Eurydice just doesn't even know how to respond to what Robin is saying, and he's built up this idea of what he's supposed to be as a chef, and it completely ignored what he wanted to be as a chef in order to do that.
Right.
The little piece where Rob was like this isn't real. Like none of this is real. The customers aren't real. The critics aren't real. And I sat with that while it was happening. Like, damn. One, this would be fire to sample. Two, this is applicable to so many forms, all forms of art.
Yeah.
Really. And like thinking about what it means to win a Michelin star or Grammy or like a Tony, all these different awards and what those things actually mean, and we can, I guess, talk more about that later too. But
yeah,
it's to Michelin stars and everything.
Yeah, I mean, like I agree 100%. I didn't realize off top that. So wait, how recently did you see Pig? Because like, did you name it? Did you name the song that specifically because of the restaurant from the movie, or not?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Watched it was a few months ago.
Oh, okay.
I actually didn't like the first time I watched, or the time that I watched it. I didn't. The name didn't stick with me, and I was reading about the movie maybe about a month and a half ago. Initially, that song was named something else, and I found out that was the name of the restaurant. I was like, oh, this would be kind of fire for this song.
Oh, so this is like a super last minute change.
Very, yeah.
That's even harder. Okay, I love that, and I'm happy. And, I just remembered there was something else I wanted to bring up that I realized when I was re-looking through the track list. There's a little sample from the movie The Menu on the very first song, which while I was re-listening, I just like heard it and I was like, wait a minute, that's Ray Fiennes from The Menu, and he's talking about like the experience of his I mean, like we don't got to talk about it too long, but like talk to me about your relationship with the menu, because I feel like that's a like I kind of go back and forth on how much I liked it, but
Mhm.
it was an experience I really fucked with while I was watching it. So like why did you like I mean like hearing the sample, like it makes sense why you open with
Yeah.
that sample, but like why, walk me through it anyway. I explain it like I'm five, please.
Yeah. It was the first movie of its kind that I've watched, like a fine dining type of movie, like that is exclusively this fine dining setting, like
Right.
the island, the dinner itself, but also have that aspect of horror, like psychological thriller, maybe thrown in there that I don't
Mm-hmm.
typically go out of my way to watch, but I did for this movie because I was intrigued by the food aspect, like how are these things going to fit together, knowing that it's like a horror movie, but also it's food based, it's fine dining based, and I'm one of those people who is it's a little bit easier for me to stomach movies like that when the characters who are on the receiving end of the brutality, like, damn near deserve it.
Yeah, of
Like,
course.
it's just even watching stuff like I watched maybe the first or second Saw movie, which is I don't watch movies like that, but I wanted to try it out, and I was like okay, there's like I'm sure this unravels at some point that I'm not really seeing. But like, there's an element of this person deserved it. Like, this is what was coming to them. But with the movie The Menu, which I actually just started rewatching the other day, I I think that the idea of punishing wealth or punishing prestige is stretched a bit far, just because not everybody who's there is in a position that I would think an island restaurant like that would be trying to attract in terms of, billionaires. Like, this is
Definitely.
a group of people who are in the ruling class. Like, they're not pulling the strings of society. So
Right.
from
Yeah, no, I'm sorry to cut you off. Like to your point,
yeah,
like
good.
part of part of that is like a handful of them are just like critics who
Yeah,
like critics and journalists and media people, speaking for myself, like they do kind of occupy like a strange space between like the ruling class and like like the not ruling class. It's a really, yeah, I just wanted to highlight that I also noticed that that's like really, it was complicated. I felt a way about it too.
yeah.
Anyway.
I like the movie though. Like, I definitely like the movie. I
Yeah,
think
yeah, yeah.
parts that there were a lot of parts where people were talking that I just really enjoyed. Like when Chef Slowick was talking, or when I forget the like the lady who's checking everybody in and she gives them the tour of the island.
I know that the actress's name is Hong Chow, but I forget her character's name.
It is just really striking dialogue to me, and that's some coming from somebody who doesn't watch that many movies, but everything just felt very sharp. And even how insufferable the main dude was,
Yeah.
it's like it fit. Like, I was annoyed watching it, and then I was like, do I really want to watch this? But I was thinking, like, oh, that's kind of the point. Like, this is
Yeah.
who this guy is, and I know people like this in real life. So I had to kind of check myself on that and give the movie a little bit more grace. But I enjoyed it. It was one of those movies that I do plan on returning to
Mm-hmm.
a lot, and I'm glad that I was able to find those bits and pieces to include in the project, because I think it was like at least loosely tied into the project's theme. Like, the
Mm-hmm.
intro, it's like explaining what this project is going to be, and then I had the scene where a dude was talking about how like athletes and entertainers, like, oh, whatever, like the chefs are the real ones, like, and that's kind of how I approach this project too, which is,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just kind of poking fun at the idea of me having chefs in this regard, whereas with artists, of course, I have them in a high regard too, but I don't really see them the same as I see music artists and chefs in a similar light. But recently, I've been looking at chefs like, this shit is different.
Yeah, nah, like it's like art's always gonna be in the eye of the beholder. I
Yeah.
think there's a there's a lot of similarities between making music and making food, but there's also a lot of differences, and just like a lot of I don't really know. I don't really know if I would. I mean, like, I get what you're saying in terms of just like where your interest is at and like what's kind of piquing it. I don't know. I don't know where I'd put one over the other because I feel like as similar as they are, I almost appreciate them for different reasons.
Mhm.
Like as somebody who like chefs pretty often, like not on like a professional level or nothing, but like there's something about like I've definitely come into like we can also talk about this later too, but I've feel like I've kind of come into my own. I feel like in the last few years as just like an amateur at home chef who just like pulls shit out of books and just
Yeah.
like I don't know, like there's just like there's something about the process of having ingredients and following instructions and like I'm about to make a tres leches cake for Christmas Eve, so like I'm like locked in on that. Like I get where you're like I totally get where you're coming from. And before we move on, I know there's two scenes I always think about when it
Mhm.
comes to the menu. There's the scene with Nicholas Holt, who's like the super fan of Ray Fiennes' chef, and they bring him in to make the food, and it's just like Tyler's bullshit with like the undercooked lamb chop and and then just like him just like destroying this fanboy, like just like completely decimating son, like in the kitchen to the point where he kills himself, right? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the other scene is the one where Anya Taylor-Joy and Ray Fiennes are talking, and she kind of dresses him down,
Mhm.
and then dares him to just like make her a cheeseburger, just like something you would get from like a diner,
Mhm.
just like with like some American cheese, and she's just like, yeah, because like she's just not buying anything he's selling, and she's just like, just make me a cheeseburger. He's like, you want fries with that? You want the American cheese? And does it, and she's just like. Be like, that's great. I'm gonna take this to go, and then of course the rest of the movie happens. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I didn't want you to think I didn't catch that because
No,
I definitely caught that.
I know you be people. I can already tell.
I want to take it all the way back with you, brother. What's the first movie experience you can remember having? It could be at the theater, it could be at your cousin's house. Just like first thing that comes to mind for you.
Damn. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is probably like Kicking and Screaming, the Will Ferrell movie.
The Will Ferrell movie? Wow. Okay.
That's definitely not the earliest movie I ever saw. Like I grew up watching movies, going to the movies, but that's a childhood favorite of mine. Kicking and Screaming and the SpongeBob movie are my childhood favorite. But I think Kicking and Screaming is the one that I still like. I could probably recite at least half of that movie just line by line. Like amazing piece of cinema right there.
Yeah, no, that was like I was just talking about this not too long ago. That's like around the time that Will Ferrell was really hitting his stride as like a solo star because like he put out Elf, he put out Old School. I think Kicking and Screaming might have been right after he put out I think it might have been right after Anchorman too. So he's like, yeah.
He was in that same, he was in that, like it was like that Wayne mixtape few year run. Will Ferrell was on fire for like 3-4 years, maybe even a little bit longer than that.
So for anybody who hasn't seen it, tell me what the movie's about and why why did it stick to you like that? I'm so curious.
So the movie is about this upper middle class guy who's in like white picket fence family who is in a constant battle against his dad, whose dad is constantly upstaging him just in life to the point where the opening scene is this dude's the main Will Ferrell's character, Phil Weston, his son being born and this being the happiest day of his life, and then his dad also having a son that same day who is the main character's brother, and his dad brags that his son is, I think, 1 ounce heavier than his son's new son. So it sets the stage for this dude who's just battling this idea of inadequacy placed on him by his dad. And he ends up substitute coaching for his son's rec soccer team and is a terrible coach because he's never done it. And his dad is a coach in the same league. And his dad is like the Greg Popovich of this rec league. And the first game that he substitute coaches for, he plays against his dad's team. His dad's team obliterates the main character's son's team. And the movie progresses from there, where this guy gets wrapped up in the world of rec league soccer coaching and develops a caffeine addiction that kind of turns him into a monster. And it's a very funny movie depicting this dude who is fighting against his dad's dominance of him. And yeah, a lot of funny actors in the movie who maybe at that point hadn't popped yet, but I think Phil Lewis was in there from the dude who played Mr. Mosby in the Sweet Zack and Cody. Who else was in that movie? I don't know if any of the kids went on to be like star. There was that one kid who I think was Beans in Even Steve.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, just like I wouldn't call it like a coming of age movie because the dude was already like 40, but it was a movie that one of those like classic like redemption underdog type movies that I think maybe that's why I clung to it. I think at the time I played soccer. Like when I was a kid, that was one of my first sports. So when I was probably from second grade to middle school, at 7th or 8th grade, I played soccer. I played in a rec league, and I don't know, maybe that's why it stuck with me. It became one of those movies that I watched a lot. My brother also loved the movie, so we would watch it together. I've probably watched it more than any other movie that I've ever watched. And it still has that draw for me because the moments that are funny, I think are really funny, and I laugh at them every single time. But yeah, I just think I don't think like it's a masterpiece necessarily, but it's just one of those movies that you grow up with, and it's stuck with me since such a young age that it's just in my head as a go-to movie for me, for sure.
Yeah, I feel it. I could say that. So I mean, like I've seen Kicking and Screaming, but like it's like that wasn't. But like the Will Ferrell movie that always did it for me had to have been either Talladega Nights or Anchorman. Like those were the ones that I kind of like really like stuck with, and like if you were to put them on, like I could just kind of run through 80% of them, like just like it's just like background. It could be background noise, just like comfort, real like comfort stuff, and like stuff like that doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be like exceptional. Like this is the best movie ever made. It's just like I've seen this a million times. It's funny as hell, or it makes me feel good, or I like this scene. Like that's always kind of the meat of what I'm looking for when I ask people that question anyway.
Yeah.
Just as like, like this is yeah, I don't know. Like I have so many of those. And it's like I feel and like I feel like it says a lot about a person what that first or not even the first one, but like what the one they kind of glomp on to in that case is, and like and yeah, like it really can't be overstated that Will Ferrell was just everywhere at this point. Right. So like if he was in it, like chances are it was going to be like the ads were going to be everywhere, and you would like catch it through osmosis or whatever.
Yeah.
But as you get older and you start to have more life experience and develop your own taste and you refine your palate a bit, I like to think of this as like a capital M movie, like the one that really kind of connected with you, like beyond what you just said, like the stuff that really hit you, either emotionally, artistically, or spiritually, if you want, like just something that really was like your first example of like, this is a film, like a capital F film, you know?
First example of that I think was Uncut Gems.
Oh, let's go.
That was I wasn't expecting the movie to have like I've never been on the edge of my seat for an entire movie like I was for that. It was like I was watching a game 7 featuring my favorite team.
Perfect comparison too.
For 25 lead changes and the game went into double overtime. Like I was sitting there stressed. That's the most stressed I've ever been in a movie theater before. And I think that was the moment that, not the moment that I started to realize that film is a lot more complex. It was the moment that I realized that I have not been watching very complex films. It was the moment I realized that things like lighting and things like how quickly the camera moves from one thing to another and how quickly scenes blend into other scenes. I had not really taken note of that with the movies I'd watch. I wasn't a big movie person. I'm not a huge movie person. Like I mostly watch sports right now. And, you know, I watch a lot of food stuff and I watch.
Yo, my fault. Sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to shout out the all new Real Notes Patreon page real quick. If you're looking for ways to connect and directly support the podcast, the Real Notes Patreon is the best way to do so. For as little as $5 a month, you can gain early day before access to every forthcoming episode of Real Notes, as well as an invite to the Real Notes Discord server, where you can talk to others about the latest and greatest in movies and music, come through for some listening sessions, and talk about whatever else is on your mind. I know I'm gonna be talking a bunch. If you feel like coming up off a little bit more, you could get cool exclusive content like audio from Real Notes Live and Real Talk interviews. Those will be exclusive to patrons and ticket holders moving forward. Access to retro versions of my 60-second Minute Maid movie reviews, and even a monthly writing and podcasting workshop hosted by me. Regular episodes will still be available on a weekly basis anywhere you get your podcasts, but if you want the extras, you gotta come out them pockets a bit. Check us out at patreon.com/realnotes. That's REELNOTES. I appreciate your consideration and support more than you know. Now let's get back to talking.
Things that pop up, but I'm not really like an avid movie watcher. And I'd like to be one, not just to enjoy more stuff, but also to redevelop an attention span that is commensurate for watching a full movie, because
of course
my span's been shot. But leading up to watching Uncut Gems, I watched most movies uncritically, and honestly, I sought out mostly like silly comedy movies that I would just laugh at and not think too much about. But watching Uncut Gems and being in that theater for what felt like 10 hours of the most like tense undertaking that I've ever done, it made me curious about what I've been missing. Like I would honestly liken that to going to like a fine dining place for the first time. I'm like, oh, like I was eating food, but this is a different level of execution.
Right.
I researched the movie after I watched it. I wanted to find out how they got the iPhone they had. I wanted to find out like how much of what KG was saying in the movie was ad-libbed. I wanted to find out like how all these things were happening. And that was the first time I was really interested in a movie like that to do it. And the pacing of that movie was just, it was so frenetic. It was so anxiety inducing, but I had a really good time watching it. I think I've watched it a couple more times since then. It hasn't really struck me as a type of movie to watch like once a month. I feel like
of course.
I give it those longer respites so that I can immerse myself into that anxiety again. And just a really, really good movie. Yeah, I recommend it to, like when I give people my top 5 or my top 3 list, like Uncut Gems is always in there. It's probably number 1 or number 2.
See, I saw it when it came out. I had a really good time with it too. Like watching that in a theater with like a bunch of people, or like even just like at home with like a handful of people. Like that's a movie you got to watch with people.
Yeah,
because y'all like feed off each other when you do it. I saw it again earlier this year because I screened it at an event I threw with the homie Overcast. Shout out to Silas if he's listening. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't know, like everything you just said. And it's weird because like it's so crazy to think that we're like talking about like silly comedies and like Adam Sandler's in this movie.
Right.
You know, like he's like done dramatic roles before, like even like a couple that are like, if you haven't seen Punch Drunk Love, if you like Uncut Gems, like go find Punch Drunk Love, because that's an incredible one. That's a Paul Thomas Anderson, really amazing movie. But like, I don't know that I've ever seen him kind of. You could tell that Adam Sandler like knew somebody just like the guy in Uncut Gems, and like really kind of took it upon himself to flesh out like the type of person this is, who's just like he's like an addict in like the worst way. He just can't help but bring his life to the brink of ruin just to like get that thrill. And like just I don't know, like I think about the ending so much.
Yes.
Because like everything comes together, the game goes off without a hitch, the parlay hits. He gets like, I think he makes like what, like 1.2 or 1.3 mil.
Yeah.
And his fucking brother-in-law walks through the door and just, and then the movie ends. like everything was fine, and then it wasn't fine.
My stomach dropped in that theater. I was sitting there like watching like this, like. Everything came together. It was the perfect ending. I guess it wasn't supposed to be. Like the point was that this dude, he didn't fly too close to the sun. Like he was inside the sun, and somehow he was wearing a 7 billion degree retardant suit that prevented him from melting, and that can only be allowed to go on for so long. But there were several moments up until that ending where I was like, bro, get out of there. Like I was damn near talking to the screen. I don't even like being in movies and talking, but I was like, I think I was with my parents. I think I saw that movie with my parents, and I was like, yo, you gotta go, bro. This should have been an exit point here and here and here, and you had 7 times to get out of this before you got to this end point. But I legitimately could not look away from the screen. Like there was phone in pocket, nothing else was registering. It's me in this movie screen, and it's been a very long time since I've been captivated by a movie like that.
Right. And it's also really cool like how they incorporated the NBA into it, and to like see KG play himself the way he did, because like it's like he's not like, it's not like it's a celebrity cameo where like everyone's happy to see him and he kind of comes in and smiles and takes a shot while he's like in the Timberwolves, or he's on the Celtics at this point. My fault.
Yeah.
But you know, like like it's funny to kind of see him play this like sleazy-ish version of himself, who's like willing to like he's not playing a good version of himself. So it's like kind of fun to see him take the piss out of himself a little bit, like especially like if you know like the type of like they pull it from a very specific era of his career. So it's just like funny that he's just like there, just like, oh, it's of course Kevin Garnett's here. Like it's like whatever. It's like what the year was like, what, like 08?
I think it was
right?
Yeah, 07 or 08 or something like that.
Yeah, so it's just like 08, like Celtics, Kevin Garnett just like here with this guy, and he thinks this glowy rock has magic powers and he can't be fat, you know, like it's just like that detail was just really funny to me. Like it didn't need to be there, but it just added to it.
Yeah.
You know, like as somebody who liked KG a lot at the time, that was just really funny to me.
Yeah, and it was cool. Like one, it was cool to see like how like he felt. It didn't seem stiff. Like I've seen non-actors act in a lot of movies, and it sometimes just seems like somebody on the production team did them a favor by putting them in it. But I don't know how many athletes they went through to find the right one. But I think I read somewhere that they were trying to get I don't remember. I don't think it was Anthony Edwards, because that would have been way too early. I can't remember who they were trying to get, but KG he just looked good on screen. He sounded good. Like nothing seemed to like, look at me, I'm acting. And I guess the context being that he had not yet won his first ring. He was kind of rotting in Minnesota for however many years, and now he's finally found this thing that's going to get him up the mountain or to the mountaintop, and he needs it. Like, that shit was fire.
Yeah.
Just like thinking about like him becoming more deranged, trying to seek out this rock, knowing that it's win now mode. Like, you're finally on a team that can actually do it. Like, I need to do it. And thinking of his performance and his desperation, his frustration through the lens of, I just spent my prime freezing in Minnesota, and now I'm in a place where I can actually win. Like, we got to beat the fucking 76ers. Like that. It was cool.
Yeah, just like the last thing you'd expect from that kind of story. It just kind of like happened, you know. Yeah, and then on top of that, it's doubly funny that you don't actually see any basketball get played. Like it's like alluded to, and you see like maybe like one like random fuzzy clip on a TV, but like there's no like, it's not a basketball movie, so of course like you're probably not going to see. I don't know. It like just like everything about that choice, just I don't know. It was just funny to me, and it just like added this weird little like like a cute just like a weird detail that didn't need to be there, but did kind of enhance it and make me appreciate something else that I loved even more. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an elite movie in my book.
Yeah, I can't wait to like sit down and watch it beginning to end again, because like that, yeah, I think it's been long enough that I want to actually like sit down and do the critical reappraisal, because it's been a while.
Right.
But let's do the same thing with music. When did music become capital M music for you? Like, not even in terms of you wanting to make it, but just like you being fascinated by music in like a direct, like, I like this is music type of way.
I don't want to go back too early, because I think like while I fell in love with music or rap specifically at a pretty early age, I don't know if it counts as capital M yet, or I don't think that at that point it was capital M. I think it became capital M when I heard Mad Villainy for the first time in college.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that was like half that, and then when I heard Fetty, I think that dropped in 2018.
Yeah, the Gibbs Currency Alchemist project. Yeah,
but to sit with Mad Villainy for a second, I knew who Doom was, like, loosely. Outside of that, at that point, I didn't really understand the alter egos. So I had heard songs with Victor Vaughn, I had heard songs with King Ghidorah, but I didn't know to piece it all together. But I listened through Mad Villainy, and I remember being in my dorm room, like just sitting in the dark, just staring out into space or whatever, and just listening to this dude rap and how convoluted it was. And something about that just changed how I look at music, or how I listen to music, but it also changed my attitude in terms of creating music. And it was, I mean, I think I spent my college years mimicking my favorite Atlanta rappers with auto-tune and triplet flows, and none of that stuff really felt like me. I enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed going to shows and performing it, but it wasn't really me. But when I heard Mad Villainy, that was the beginning of me finding me as an artist, but also as a listener. All caps. Figaro was Figaro was actually my first favorite. Like, that was my favorite song. Favorite song in the world. I listened to that song 10 times a day. I had never heard anybody rap like that. And I grew up like listening to Wu-Tang Clan. Like, that was one of the first 90s era rap groups or rappers that I came across. I listened to Cannabis when I was younger. Like, I listened to a lot of older rappers mixed in with the more contemporary Waynes and but there was something about the effortlessness and the like the grittiness of how Doom was rapping, but also you could tell that there was like some really cagey genius going on. Or I felt this guy who was much larger than life rapping in a way that like sometimes is really silly and is never takes itself too seriously, but it's also just supreme in terms of the lyricism, in terms of the flows, in terms of all the technical skills involved in rapping, plus the production, which I didn't understand at all at that point. And now I can look at the music that he was making with a completely different level of admiration, knowing about how much he produced as well as rapping at this level. But yeah, that was the album for me. That one really changed everything. And it was actually introduced Doom. My late friend Miles, who in 2016 passed, he introduced me to Doom months before I listened to Mad Villainy. And while I was thinking of him, I said I should check this out, and I did, and I was like, wow, this was crazy.
So that's doubly special. Wow.
Yeah, it was. I had on my AKG headphones, and I was just sitting in my room. It was like studio headphones too. Like it wasn't even like real listening headphones. I was just sitting in my room, like you know that video of Binky from Arthur just levitating, and that was me in my I was like, this is so different than anything I've ever listened to. Like, how is he doing this? That was for sure.
Yeah, I get it, bro. Like, yeah, the first time I ever heard Mad Villainy had to have been it had to have been, I want to say like 05.
Yeah.
Maybe. So like maybe like a year or two after it came out. And yeah, like that was my first experience with Doom too. And I just like it changed everything. Like I'm not gonna repeat you you kind of nailed exactly where I was coming from with it. And then like I was just so because like I heard the Adult Swim project with Danger Mouse.
Yep.
And then I heard Food, and I was like, this is my favorite rapper. I was like, I'm wearing the shirt right now. Like, yeah, like it's like he was. That's when I knew like I was like, this is my GOAT. Like everybody else kind of gets in wherever they fit in, but like he's number one.
Yeah.
And you're like to this day, you know, like like especially considering that Food just turned 20. You know, I've been thinking about it a lot, especially these last couple months since the label and like his estate have been going hard with the promotion of the reissue and all the stuff they did at Flognaw. I just had Empress Star on. Shout out to Star again. I just had her on last week, so like we talked a lot about that, of course. But like, yeah, man, like there never was anyone like him before, and there never will be anyone like him. I mean, there's so many of us were and will continue to be inspired by Doom, but like they broke that mold. There will never be another him, and yeah, I don't know, like especially the whole like he doesn't take himself too seriously, but he's just like otherworldly talented, you know, like otherworldly skilled, you know, and like Food and Mad Villainy both of those came out in the same year too.
Like how? How?
I don't know, son.
All the time, but like how did he do this? Like I read that one beer almost ended up on Mad Villainy. I was like, yo, if I had heard, and I got to Food late. If I had heard one beer and a few of those other songs at that time, bro, just I marvel at how prolific he was, but also how intent on high quality he was. A lot of artists are prolific. A lot of artists put out a lot of music, but I go back to his projects and I run through them. I'm like, this is all what I'm trying to hear.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Like, you know, like I was thinking about this a couple of days ago. I feel like I kind of approach watching movies and listening to music like other people approach reading books. You know, like that's like my books. I like, obviously I also read, but like I consume way more music and watch way more movies than I do read books.
Yeah.
And like like just revisiting any Doom album, but particularly Food and Mad Villainy, like those two are just so special, man. Like it's just like like those are the ones that people tend to gravitate towards, and it's just like you can see it. It's not like there's never been a time where I've been like, oh, these two are overrated. Yeah. Like I don't know what people see in this. Like I get it. Like especially with Food, because like Food's like it's a concept album, but it's not a concept album. Like there's the Food thing going on, but it's also like his most personal project too. Like there's so much of him in there, more than like any other project he's ever put out, but it's also all done at like a remove too, because like nothing was ever fully him, you know. Like he wrapped his whole fucking career in the third person. Like nobody else has done that shit. Like he was like, they really don't make him like him. And I don't know, he's just so like, you could be unique, but he was like unique and like exceptionally crazy. Yeah. I don't know, man. He's so special to me. So
yeah, and he just and despite all of those things, despite how elite he was in so many different facets of creating music, but also just creating a persona, it's still like the message to me is still like, don't take shit too seriously. Like, love the art, obsess over the art, but don't take yourself or any of this stuff too seriously. And I can imagine that a lot of that had to do with his feeling of not being or not going, him feeling like he wouldn't be around for very long.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of it has to come from that, but I also think part of it is just like you work at this thing and you're trying to become the best at this thing, and you are, whether it's producing or rapping or both, there's so much competition involved. There's so much room for animosity and people getting over, and then the industry, which is like obviously very anti-industry, but all these things. And it's like, at the end of the day, if you can remember that like this stuff matters, but like don't make it something that you can't pull yourself back from. Like don't make it something you can't joke about, or it can't like make something jokingly. At the point you've reached that, then you've kind of lost it. And
yeah,
I feel like he experienced so much heartbreak in his life and was still able to have those funny moments and those silly moments, and not just have them like off camera and like in interviews and things like that, but in the actual music. I just thought that was really cool. It has given me a bit of an anchor in terms of how I feel about making music that sometimes is probably too serious and more serious than it needs to be. And sometimes I gotta either pull it back with the music or with things outside of music to remind people like I'm not just a rapper or just a writer, but I'm also just a person with thoughts, and some of those thoughts are really dumb.
Yeah. And like, I'm happy you brought that up in that specific way, because I feel like this is something I've talked about with a lot of people on here. Like in particular, I'm thinking back to my convo with Navy Blue, because I mean, like, we all, like, anybody listening to this is probably a fan of Sage's, and like he's like, his music is very serious. Yeah, like it's very solemn, it's very thoughtful, it's very like excavating. Yeah. Like he's like digging up cobwebs, but like he's a goofball, you know, like he's like the silliest dude on the planet. So like he's always just like, I want people to know more. I want people to know that I'm not this like stoic person who's gonna like stare daggers into your soul when I meet, like,
yeah.
So and I mean, like, you and I have even talked about that quite a bit, just you know, just like the idea of like, there's something very specific about what you do that I want to get into, but I want to real quick speed run a few origin story points. We're not going to touch on too much. Y'all can go read the VMP piece if you want to read more about, if you want the bullet points, go there. But I want to touch on two things specifically, because one, I remember that one of your first one of your first performances in college was when you did your thing over Nicki Minaj's Only.
Yeah.
And like to me, the reason that sticks out is because I love that beat. Beat's amazing. I remember when the video came out.
Mhm.
Like I remember the Nicki, Chris Brown, Drake hierarchy thing. Like it was a moment. So like you do this. So I mean, like you do that. You start recording. Your music starts to gain traction pretty quickly. When you like talk to me about putting that first performance together and like what it was like, and how did it feel when it was over? You know, like did you kind of feel like you had locked in on like, oh, this is who I'm gonna be, like this is what I want to do type shit?
Yeah, I mean that's exactly how I felt afterward. To answer your first question first, I didn't rehearse. Like I didn't understand the concept of memorizing the lyrics. Like I had paper with the lyrics on. I typed out the lyrics. I printed them out in the library at my school probably, and I had them like in my pocket waiting to go on stage. I had written, I think it was 3 things, just in case I made it through the 3 rounds. One of them, I'm pretty sure, was to the beat for Pinata. One of them was to the beat for Between Villains, which is still my top 10 of all time songs. And
Incredible song, yeah.
that was the first time I heard Doom, I think, and I was like, oh, yeah, this dude is a sicko. And the third one was the Only beat, and I printed all my lyrics out, and I was seeing people get up and start to perform, and I was like, oh, nobody has their lyrics written. Like I'm the only person with my lyrics written. At that point, it was too late for me to rehearse. Like I hadn't even learned how to rehearse yet. It was my first time. It would have been my first time rehearsing for anything. I had never rapped live before. But I got up on stage, and my paper was really crumpled because it had been in my pocket, and it was kind of sweaty too because like my hands were sweaty, and I was shaking up on stage, so I couldn't really read it. Like imagine reading a crumpled piece of paper that's like kind of moving back and forth. Like I was sitting there kind of cooked right now. But I might have done Only first. I think that was the first song I performed. And I had this one line that was like something in the middle was like, you ain't doing shit like Clarence Thomas. And I didn't really know like who Clarence Thomas was or why that was a good bar. At that point, like it was just, this seems like something that I should say in this rap song. And the way people reacted to it was like that. It just kind of settled all my nerves. It was like completing that first pass of the day or making that first layup or making your first jumper. It was like, I'm settled in now. The crowd is with me. I got like the pop that I wanted. And the rest of it was pretty smooth. I ended up coming in third in that to two guys who I know now still, one of whom is I believe a PhD student, but is also an author and a poet out in the Bay, and another Brandon, who I haven't talked to in a minute, but afterwards, I felt like I found my calling. I felt like I knew exactly what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't know how I was going to get there, but standing up on that stage and like feeling those nerves melt away off of that one punchline was just one of the coolest things that I'd ever felt. And I played sports growing up, so I had been in some situations that I guess are high stakes for an 8-year-old, like a rec league championship or something like that. But there's something different about being the only person up there and really living or dying by how the crowd reacts to something that you're doing, because they're not looking at anybody else. Like on the basketball court, you got 5 people with you, and on a soccer field, you got 11 or 10 other people with you. So the blame never really is never squarely on one person. But being the one person that everybody's looking at like that, I was scared. I was really scared at first, and by the end, it was exhilarating, and it was like I want to do this all the time. So, yeah, that was the moment that I decided I wanted to be a rapper for real. That was the end of my first quarter at U Chicago, and I spent the rest of my time there ignoring a good amount of my schoolwork and class attendance to make that dream happen. So yeah, that was the story of me rapping over that only beat. Really, really crazy beat. I know the rapping I was doing wasn't that great on it, but in the moment I thought I was one of them ones. So
I mean, like you found yourself in that moment. So, you know, like in a sense, you were anyway. So fuck it, you know, like there's like that's not I wouldn't be here talking right now if you didn't do that. Probably.
right.
So, you know, and then you know, like I said before, like after that, you recorded a bunch, you put out some songs, some of them really hit, you know, like you start making your way onto playlists, your numbers start going up. You put out quite a few albums, including the one with Pilot Kid.
Yeah.
There's just like, you know, like things are you know, like things are moving a little bit at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And like to me, really sitting with your writing for the last couple of days and like taking in like Michelin Man in particular, like your lyrics are so clever and like evocative, but not in like the usual like setup, punchline, simile, metaphor kind of way.
Yeah.
Like there's so much detail in the way that you describe, like you know, like you're talking about like nice luxury things sometimes, but it's like the way you describe food, the way you describe clothing, the way you describe like luxury items, but it's like it's never in like a I have this, listen to me talk about it type of way. Like it's like we talked about this before, just like you're drawing the eye to details and using that to juxtapose with the idea of like, why do I have this? Why do we want this? You know, like why you know, like why is this rat race so important to us?
Yeah.
Like that's like you know, like that, like hearing you tell me that really put Michelin Man in a completely different context for me than it would have been otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like this, I don't think we talked about specifically. So I want to know, when did you first consciously start doing that as a writer? And is that kind of like because like that is not an easy thing to do. It's a really difficult balance to maintain and not have people get confused about it or be like, have to ask like what your intentions are. Because it's like your stuff's not satirical, but it's also not like everything on the surface as it is either. So like, talk to me about kind of developing that as a writer and a rapper, because yeah, it's great.
I appreciate that, man. It's weird because I started being more careful with how I was rapping in regards to luxury items and stuff once I started having luxury items. Like,
right.
Before that, I would rap about like in almost a yearning kind of way, like a manifestation kind of way, like about a Montclair or about a G-Wagon or just having a lot of money, like just any of these luxury tropes. I rapped about them, not necessarily because I thought they were the most important thing, but I kind of wanted to invoke that idea of luxury and that idea of richness in my music because I thought like this is what rap is supposed to be. And I think that can be extended to a lot of things. And some of those things I agree with and some of those I don't. But I didn't really see I didn't have any reservations about rapping like that kind of blindly. But once I started making a little bit more money and once I started getting some of these items, I was able to figure out which things are world renowned and famous and expensive because they're really high quality, compared to other stuff, and which of these things are really expensive and world renowned and famous because people say they are.
Yeah, because it's a brand name.
Yeah. There's prestige that is attached to high quality goods. There's also prestige that is attached to regular quality goods or even subpar quality goods that have a story or a history or the support of the masses. And I wasn't able to examine that before I had access to those luxury goods. So even something like a jacket, some jackets are really nice. Like a Moncler coat is a really nice coat. I can wear one without a shirt underneath in the coldest Chicago winter and still be warm. Like that's a good that to me is deserving of its reputation as a high quality brand because it actually is. There are other things that don't really deserve that, but they have those reputations because they had those reputations 20 years ago. And they had it then because they had the reputation 20 years before that. And it's not a cycle, but the pattern continues through the future. So I started rapping more consciously, I want to say a couple of years ago, when it became apparent to me that a lot of this stuff isn't necessarily stuff to aspire to have. And these aren't necessarily things that anybody should be aspiring to do. But if I'm doing them and I'm going to talk about the things that I'm doing, I need to do it in a balanced way that is not intimating that this is something that you need to be doing, or that I don't need to be rapping about it in a, hey, look at me, I'm doing this thing. My goal was to create my goal was to kind of even the playing field between these things that are seen as very important and these things that are seen as very regular or unimportant by rapping about them the same way, the same level of detail, with the same kind of detached tone. Because at the end of the day, a lot of this shit does not matter, or it doesn't matter for actual reasons. Like a sturgeon fish costing $35,000 with the caviar inside it. There are reasons for that. Like there are ecological reasons for that. Like rivers being dammed up and preventing sturgeon from reproducing in the part of the river that they'd normally be reproducing in because people are prioritizing the hydroelectric capacity of of damming things at the expense of these fish that are now less plentiful because they can't get through to where they would normally be reproducing. That's why there are fewer fish. The caviar is expensive because this fish is like there aren't that many fish left. So this thing that they produce is very expensive as a result. Probably going to keep getting more expensive because the population of the fish is going to continue to dwindle, even against the most robust conservation efforts. There's an actual reason why the caviar costs that much. It's not really like there's still a value being placed on caviar being this thing, right? Like there's a reason that this caviar is more expensive than salmon caviar, but there are a lot more salmon. Like the caviar is more accessible. Like there's actual stuff behind some of these things, behind some of these items, some of these goods that are regarded as luxury, that are regarded as inaccessible, because they are, but there's also some stuff that isn't.
Yeah.
And once I started living a little bit closer to that world of luxury, not in it, I'm definitely not in it. I'm like kind of in the suburbs, and that's like the main city, but I'm kind of like where I'm at right now, Hyde Park. I'm like 15 minutes away from downtown. Like I could get there easily if I want to, but that's not really where I'm living. It became more important to me to rap matter-of-factly instead of braggadociously. Not sure if that's, and I got that from Draco and I got that from Valee. They both rap like this is just the shit that I'm doing. Larry June as well, I think, does a really good job of that, where he's not making fun of people who don't have it. I didn't have it 2 years ago. It still stretches the time now where I don't have it. where I'm trying to self-fund these projects, and I've been, working with investors. I've been working with a lot of different people to like help me accomplish these things. Like, this is not like being broke or not having it is just not something to point and laugh at. And the more I started engaging with this type of music and rapping about these types of things, I was realizing like I gotta make more of an effort to distance myself from that type of rapping. And I'm gonna do it with my tone. I'm gonna do it with subverting the prestige of these items by refocusing on the lyricism that I'm using to describe them, because I think that's more important for me as a lyricist than the car itself, or than the jacket itself, or than the amount itself. It's subversion. Like it's challenging the ideas of importance and why the importance for certain things exists. And it's something that Draco and Valee specifically made it a little bit easier for me to conceptualize, because hearing them rap almost deadpanned about, whether it's Draco with his lyricism, because Draco has some crazy bars that
Yes, he does.
people don't like. I guess a lot of people aren't really hip in general, but I actually just had this interview a couple weeks ago with this dude who was asking me like what Draco's influence means to me. And I explained it to him as like, imagine somebody taking the handoff from the 1 yard line and they do the Saquon Barkley huddle and they truck 8 people, and then they wait for a second, and then they truck 8 more people again, and then they score, and they just hand the ball to the ref. This is the line. Like, it's crazy bar in the middle of 2 bars that aren't that crazy, and there's no get it, there's no extra loudness on this part that's a punchline.
Yeah, it doesn't draw attention to itself. Yeah, exactly.
It's very unassuming, and if you're really listening to it, you're going to catch it, and if you're not, you're not. But that's fine with him, because he's not rapping so that people recognize him as a great lyricist. And I think I was doing that for a while, and I'd be disappointed and frustrated when people would listen to my music and not get all the lines. And I had to give myself a reality check. Like, what am I really doing this for? Like, I can put all this stuff on display, but I can't force people to it.
Right.
I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to keep rapping in the way that I rap, and I'm going to keep couching different bars in like pretty unassuming settings that don't really draw attention to themselves. So it's not like everybody's going to be like, yeah, this bar was crazy, this bar was crazy. But that only makes it more special when somebody hits me, is like, yeah, this bar was crazy, because that you might be the one person who's ever hit me about that. But in Valee is the same way, where he has this kind of dry, languid approach to rapping, where he says some really clever shit, but he's just there's just another bar to him. So I'm taking, I think, a more condensed, a more dense lyrical approach than most artists do, but I also am taking the approach of not one like Doom, not taking shit too seriously, and also not putting the pressure on people to understand what I'm saying. And if they want to get to that, they can, because it's not about forcing people to the line, forcing people to understanding. It's just about putting it in front of them. And I think my analysis of what stuff means and why it's important kind of lines up with that, because if you're hearing me rapping about how a Montclair looks like a beetle shell, and then going into the next line or two where I'm comparing like different parts of my body to like what would anatomically make sense for a beetle, like talking about segments and having this many legs and like turning it into its own thing. That's not about the Montclair, like that's not about this $1,500 jacket. Like, that's about me using this as a reference point for a string of bars that are not even connected to the initial thing that I'm rapping about. Like, what's more impressive? The fact that I just did that off of one line, or the fact that I have this coat? And I think anybody would say that the lyricism is more important, and that's the only message I'm really trying to get across. Like, and if that means that I need to be a little bit more like almost self-deprecating with the way that I'm approaching these items, these luxury goods, by instead focusing on the lyricism that I'm using to craft comparisons around those luxury items, then that's what it needs to be. But yeah.
And I appreciate that, because like that's, like not only are you putting the emphasis on the art of it all, which is like always worth it to me in the end, like you're also kind of like, like you said, you're unpacking, deconstructing, and like demystifying, like, whether, like a rapper's and a listener's relationship with that stuff. Like we all, like most people like nice things. Like I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't like nice things. Like I'm in a position where I've been able to buy myself recently some fairly nice things, and I'm happy and grateful that for myself and for others, like I've been in a position where I've been able to do that. But it's just kind of like it's like that, like the most basic of axioms, just like, like it's not what you wear but how you wear it. It's not what you have but like how you flaunt it or use it, or like the type of person you are, like it's not about, it's not about your position, it's about what you do with that position, like it's about like how you treat people, how you are around the world. And like your style really emphasizes that aspect to me, and I've always really, like as long as I've been listening to your shit, it's been great. And just like digging into that in the context of Michelin Man is just like it's like a perfect one of one fit, because like fine dining is a whole other conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that like I know that you had already had kind of a relationship with food as it is.
Yeah.
So before we get into the specific, because like, or yeah, like even before I was gonna ask that, like you look at the Mangalica Mink cover, and it's like the picture of the pig divvied up into the different sections, like like in the way that you would like cut up a pig to section out the meat to eat, like like it's always been there.
Yeah.
And like so talk to me about your relationship with food and fine dining, and how that's kind of like just like, where did that start, like even outside of the music, like before we get to Michelin Man, like talk to me about your relationship with food.
Yeah, I didn't have a noteworthy relationship with food prior to like 2022. Like I would, my goal was always to spend the least amount of money and eat the most amount of food, which doesn't necessarily lead to me eating the best quality food, but it was never about that for me. It was more just about being full, like being good, being content. That changed a bit when I started pursuing rap full time. So end of 2021 was when I quit my job at the gym, and was making enough money to be living comfortably off music alone. I was selling features, I was doing pretty well with streams, all that kind of stuff, and it was cool. I brought my homie Terrell to this place in Chicago, in West Loop, called Momotaro, which is a sushi spot, or a Japanese spot that had like a grill section kind of in a sushi section. And I had never experienced sushi like that before. It was my first time eating sushi in a way that wasn't just like a vehicle for sauces, like spicy mayo and soy sauce and stuff. Like I was it's very simple. There was no spicy mayo. It was this little side of soy sauce, but the fish was so good and the rice was so good that it didn't need anything else. And I want to say that was the first moment that I started thinking about food a bit differently. Like the quality of this food makes so that you don't really need to add anything else to it. And I've only known sushi in this one way for my entire life, and now I'm being introduced to it in a completely different way. And the only difference is the quality of the fish, the quality of the rice, and probably the quality of the seaweed too. That kind of got the gears turning in my head, but it really wasn't until until the end of 2023, which was maybe about a year almost 2 years after that sushi dinner that my relationship with food changed completely, or evolved to the next level, which was experiencing mental satiation alongside the physical, so that the physical was not the only thing that mattered. And that was last November when I went to this restaurant in Chicago called Atelier. It was my first time doing a tasting menu, which before that I had sworn off, because if my goal is to spend the least money to get the most full, like a tasting menu is the exact opposite of that, and I had no interest. But I went at the suggestion of my homie, and what I found was that there was a level of mental satisfaction at the end that was unlike anything I'd experienced before from food, where normally I'm sitting in front of my laptop and I'm watching YouTube videos, or I'm watching a game on TV or something. I'm not really thinking about what I'm eating. Like I know it's good. I know that it's something that I've had before. I'm not really thinking about how the flavors work together and how, like, any of that stuff really. But I did that at this restaurant. And each course I was thinking about how the flavors work together. And I was thinking about how the colors looked on the plate and how things were presented and the different textures that I was experiencing. And what's this ingredient? I've never had this before. And what's this one? I was taking notes on all these things that I just had no idea about. And some things I knew a little bit about. And by the end, even though I'd eaten maybe a third or a quarter of what it would normally take to get me full after a day of not eating, because up until that point, I didn't really eat that much. I was satisfied mentally in a way that made me feel full completely. And that was pretty amazing to me, because I eat a lot of food. And I was fully expecting to have to go to the McDonald's across the street afterwards and pick something up and then go home. It was great. It was a difference maker for me, because now, or after that, I started approaching food a bit differently, more intentionally. And in the past year, with all the restaurants that I've gone to as part of the Bvck of House shooting, I've approached them with a similar open-mindedness and a mindfulness that I was not approaching food with before. And I'm trying to incorporate that more into my life at home, where while I'm eating and if I'm making something new, I don't have the TV on, I don't have my phone near me even. I got my laptop shut and I'm just eating, thinking about how these flavors work together, what I could introduce to this to make it even better, whether that means it's something that I already know to introduce or something that I have to look up and be like, what could I add to Brussels sprouts? What could I add to this or that? It's like, it's been the era of mindfulness for me, mindfulness in eating. And I think that's the most recent evolution I've had. That's the most recent evolution my relationship with food has had. Because now I just think about everything, and I might even be overthinking a little bit, but I like this more than I like how I was eating before. And it's made a difference. It's made a big difference in how I consume, and has honestly like changed my taste for a lot of things too.
Yeah. So I'm happy you brought that up, because my journey wasn't that, it wasn't exactly that. But I mean, like, I've been cooking in some way, shape, or form since I was a little younger.
Yeah.
Like, not like professionally or nothing, but like both my parents were like, you need to know how to make stuff that isn't just like tendies in the microwave type shit, you know? So like, like my father would teach me how to make, like, he taught me how to make like ribs. My mother taught me how to make chicken and like a couple other things here and there. And then like recently, one of my favorite YouTube channels is the Bvck of Babish universe. Like I love Bvck of Babish. I'm like, you know, like as a big TV movie pop culture person, like he makes all the food from like movies and TV shows. So obviously I'm a big fan. My partner and my sister both got me his cookbook for Christmas last year.
Yeah.
Because I had asked one of them for it, but the other one had thought to get it for me anyway. So I have two copies, one at my crib and one at my partner's crib.
Yeah.
And his book really kind of fleshed out and made me think more about or like no, like his book didn't make me think about that stuff more because I had already kind of been thinking about that before anyway. But like having that having like a professional, more like professional perspective on how to do that stuff really has helped me figure out how to refine and be more mindful in the stuff I eat. There's a recipe in the book. It's I've made it so many times now. Like I found it and it's like it's like braised chicken thighs over pasta with like fennel made in like chicken stock.
Yeah.
And like a bunch of veggies. It's like fennel, onion, like scallion, you name it. Like it's the type, it's fucking crazy. It's the type of thing where like you gotta like you gotta prepare it. You make the chicken, put it to the side, cut up the veggies, prep them in a dish or prep them in a pan, cut up this like onion, garlic, rosemary mixture. You put that in the center of the pan, and then you let that heat up by itself, and then mix it in with the rest of the veggies, and then put in chicken stock, add in chicken, put that pan into the oven, bake that for 35 minutes, take it out, add the pasta to the liquid, add the pasta to the braising liquid as opposed to making it in water. You do all of that together, and then it's just this beautiful, soupy, cheesy pasta mix of veggies. And then you get the crispy, you take the chicken out, the skin is still crispy, you put the chicken in, cook it for a little bit more. It's one of the best things I've ever eaten in my life.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
It's like I burnt, like you can't really see it now, but I burned my hand like while moving the thing. Like that's how much I love this dish.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't remember the last thing I made that wasn't like a cake that I really kind of came away from and was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I just made some food, you know, like not or like not even like I was like, oh, like I felt like I made a meal as opposed to like, oh, I just made some food.
Yeah.
You know, like it was.
I feel that distinction. Yeah.
That shit was special. I was like it to this day, it's like my favorite thing to make for me and my sister. Like I'll just go out and get chicken thighs, and they'll be like, "Oh, it's time." I'm like, "Yep, it's time." So, yeah. So I mean, like taking that ethos to this project.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about where the idea for michelinman came from, and you know, like incorporating that concept into the music, and then once that's done, taking that into real life and turning it into like an actual relationship that resulted in you like doing like restaurant tours. Like you're about to do a whole fucking restaurant tour and you already did a spot date. So walk me through the idea to turn it into an album and then to carry that album into the real world in this way.
So when I went to that restaurant that I told you about, Atelier, first time, which was last November, I was pretty close to the end when I realized that what I was eating was like an album. The way the courses flowed together, the way things weren't necessarily cohesive in terms of like it's not like, you know, you go to a Mediterranean restaurant, all the food you're going to get is going to be Mediterranean. And you go to a Greek place and all the food is going to be Greek. And this wasn't that. It was cohesive in that basically everything was locally sourced. But in terms of what I was actually eating, like the actual foods that I was eating, there wasn't any one thing that was connecting them except everything is fire. Everything is fresh. Everything is prepared with the utmost attention to detail and precision, and everything is fire. So I was like, damn, why haven't I made an album that's a tasting menu? Because I've made music that's been like lightly food inspired. I have several projects out that have like everything but Jetsam has been like named after food or inspired by food. But I wanted to take it to a different level. I wanted to make this like really feel like a tasting menu. So that I'd already had a couple of the songs written prior to that. but I went back and retooled them because I wanted them to better reflect a food angle. And everything I wrote from that point on for those next few months was from a food angle. And I even started selecting beats a little bit more differently than I normally would. I wanted things to sound more elegant. I wanted things to sound more instrument based than anything else. So I leaned on my homies who make beats with more instruments, and especially my homie Max, who produced more songs in the project than any other one producer did. And he also EP'd the project, but he plays the piano extremely well. And it just felt like every beat he sent me was made with this album in mind. So I knew that I wanted to create an album. I was already kind of on my way to creating an album. I think initially the name was Tajima Tapes, which was actually, no, the first name I had was Saitama Tapes, because I just watched One Punch Man for the first time. And I was like, this dude is basically just me. Like, I watched the whole show. I was like, okay, so he's like having this existential crisis because like he's not getting hired anywhere and he doesn't know what his passion is. And then he finds this villain and destroys him, and he's like, oh, this is what I'm gonna do. And I was like, that was basically just what happened with me, but it was rap instead. And there were just a lot of more similarities between myself and between that character that I saw in the show, that I was like, oh, this would be like a perfect intro to me in this album form, and I would call it Saitama Tapes. But as the food angle started to develop and become more fully fleshed out, I was thinking to myself, I want something that's more of a reference to food. Like, I want people to know even before they listen to it, like, this is going to be a food-focused album. So next it was Tajima Tapes, and Tajima is the name of the strain of Black Wagyu cattle. And I was hoping to make it like a whole kind of not Japan themed, but I was hoping to get out to Japan to a Wagyu farm and take some flicks and maybe go to one of the factories. It was a very ambitious, too ambitious an idea to really execute, but I still like the name because it had that staying power, I felt like, with the T and the T. But eventually I switched it to michelinman, and that was after the Bvck of House series shooting started. I went to that same restaurant again for the second time this February, and I sat at the chef's table, and I just thought it was really cool that I was right here while the chefs were cooking. I was watching them, like watching a guy 3 feet from me julienne vegetables and thinking like, I could touch these right now. Like, I'm right here. And I was thinking like, how difficult would it be to execute a video series in which I'm sitting at the chef's table and these chefs are working behind me? But then I was like, wait, why would I not just be in the kitchen with them? And they're all going to be kind of walking past me, like one of those videos of somebody standing on the subway, and then the train comes and they're gone. You know what I'm talking about? Where it's like a hella crowded subway and there's like one facing the camera. That's what I pictured it as, like a really long shot. So that's what I wanted to do. And I started messaging a bunch of chefs, following and messaging a bunch of chefs and restaurants on Instagram. I probably messaged like 400, 500 chefs in the first couple weeks of having that idea, just doing my research, going on their pages, seeing who had posted a story recently. Like, a lot of people don't really reply to their stories or aren't really active on socials. I don't be replying a lot, and I don't have that many followers. So I was thinking like, maybe I'll just try to keep it to the chefs and restaurants with under 20,000 followers, just because there's a better chance that they see my shit. Had a pre-proposal, typed out a longer proposal, and I didn't get very many yeses at first, but I got a few, and that gave me the confidence to keep shooting that shot. And then doing those actual shoots in Charleston, in San Francisco, and in Oklahoma City, and feeling how like warm and inviting everybody was and how excited the chefs were to be a part of it, that also gave me the confidence that this was an idea worth pursuing, like, and finishing off for the whole album. So long story short, we shot 14 Bvck of House videos, including one reshoot. at 11 different cities. We did 3 in Chicago, and we did the remaining 11 in 11 different cities, including Vancouver and Edmonton. And during that process, my relationship with food continued to evolve because I was in front of a lot more high-end food than I'd ever been. And I started rewriting a lot of the songs, which is what necessitated the reshoot, because I started adding new foods and new references into older songs that I was like, oh, I like this whole 8 needs to come out because I need to put this new reference in there. But that's how the project came together. Eventually, I named it Michelin Man after I realized that we had shot at like 3 or 4 Michelin starred restaurants. I think we ended up with 4, maybe 5 on the list, and I was just thinking like, I shouldn't even be in here for real. I'm really in these spaces just off a DM. And like up until a certain point, I didn't even have proof of concept. It was just me being like, I have this idea where I blend food and music in a way that has never been done before. Like, if you'd be interested, let me know, and I can send you more information. And some of the chefs were like, yeah, I'd be interested. I guess chefs are really into music too, which is something I've noticed. But with regards to the title, I had some conversations with chefs who made it pretty clear to me that getting a Michelin star is kind of like winning a Grammy or winning some other crazy accolade, because it's an unbelievable accomplishment for any chef, any restaurant to get.
Right.
And at the same time, there is the underlying question is like, what does this mean? Because there's nothing really objective about food in the same way there's nothing really objective about music. Like, so why do certain people get nominated and why don't other people? What are the standards? Who are the people who are making these decisions? So the name is, like, of course, a celebration of the chefs who have been nominated, the chefs who have received Michelin stars and Bib Gourmands and all these different things from the Michelin company, but also like, what does it actually mean to win a Michelin star? Like, if this is a sign of excellence, like, what does that mean for the chefs who haven't received Michelin stars? Because, like, to me, their food is excellent too. Does it mean that they don't have the right exposure? Does it mean that they're not doing things in a style that's conducive to winning one? Like, it could mean a lot of different things. There's politics involved. There are a lot of things mixed up in the same way that a Grammy doesn't necessarily mean that you're killing it. Like, it means it's a great award, right? It's for a lot of people, a once in a lifetime award. And it is a reflection in some way of the amount of work and time and effort that an artist has put into a project, that a producer has put into a project. And this analysis is by no means an attempt to dim the light of anybody who's won a Grammy or a Michelin star. But the process of selecting who wins either of these things, or really probably any award, is like, it's a group of people. It's a group of people with their own biases and their own ideas of what's supposed to be what, and that all means something. And sometimes it means that there is an unimpeachable, undeniable quality of something, and sometimes it means other things. And I think the idea of naming the project Michelin Man was just to encourage people to have a closer look at the idea of prestige and how it's awarded and to whom it's awarded and what it actually means outside of this thing is excellent, this thing is outstanding. Because largely it does mean that. I think for damn near everybody who receives a Grammy or receives a Michelin star, it is a sign of excellence. It's a sign of outstanding performance. It's a sign of consistency. It's a sign of incredible quality and all these things. Knowing that, there are a lot of other artists and a lot of other chefs and a lot of other restaurants that embody those things as well. So what is really being assessed and what can be deduced from certain places being left off these lists despite the fact that they accomplish these same goals as these chefs, restaurants, artists who are on these lists.
Right.
There's something there.
Yeah, and then I think on top of that, it's also just like you kind of creating your own worth. Like people in those positions creating their own sense of worth and not necessarily needing to be validated by like a Michelin star or a Grammy or an Oscar or a Tony or whatever. You know, like you can be a Michelin star quality chef. You can be a Grammy caliber musician. You could be a Oscar caliber actor. You could be a Tony caliber Broadway performer and never win an award and never get recognized because, like you said, the people on, like I'm saying this as a writer and a critic myself who, like may or may not be involved. Like I'm not involved with any of those boards or anything officially like that, but I just mean like as somebody who's kind of like in that like circle of like criticism and bias, subjectivity, whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, like that, like you said, you put it perfectly. Like those people, like there's like, I've always been of the mind that there's no such thing as objectivity, like for anything really. Like life and perspective is what you make of it. Like it's like the shit doesn't have meaning that we don't ascribe to it. If that, like, I mean, like things are, but they become even more once we attribute whatever we attribute to them.
Yeah,
that's yeah. But like, you don't need a Grammy to know that you're a Grammy caliber. You know, like somebody who makes like the best Mediterranean food on planet Earth doesn't need the award to know that they make the best Mediterranean food on planet Earth.
Exactly.
And like that's one of the things I appreciate about the universe of Michelin Man, because it's just like not only is there the interdisciplinary aspect, which is like what Real Notes is all about. Like I love like you and I are both people who love the intermingling of music and culture in some way. For me, it's movies. For you, it's food. And like that's they both become richer in that way when you can like make the parallels. And that's why those parallels are so important. And that's why it's cool to see you just kind of like you thoughtfully stunt. That's that's like the cool thing about your music. Like it's thoughtful stunning, because like you are stunning on a lot of these songs. Like it's not like you're completely, like you're not I don't know, like you're not taking yourself too seriously, but you are at least acknowledging like, hey, this is something to at least think about outside of the fact that this looks good or this tastes nice or whatever. Like the song I keep coming back to on here is Acorn Diet. That's my song. Like that and the Boldy James song are my two songs on here. And just like elegance, definitely the word I would use to describe every song on this album. Like I can definitely, like Pilot Kid, who also has a beat on here. It's a great beat. Like obviously, like no disrespect to the last project that y'all did, because that project's fucking crazy. But like, just like there is a difference in sound quality just in terms of like the stuff you wanted to rap over. Yeah. Like I could I could tell that you wanted to dress it a certain way and kind of have it like catch the light a certain way.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like I think man, I just think that this is with the videos and everything and just like the way you approached it, like it's not it's not like you made a project where you're just like dropping a bunch of food metaphors like your Action Bronson, which is also great. Action Bronson is also a chef. Yeah. Like I've had one of his sandwiches before. The shit was crazy. Like that man can cook. But like like this goes a little beyond that. Like it's like it kind of does, or not kind of, it does give you that, it gives you that mental satisfaction. And like you made an album that's like a tasting menu. Like you wanted to go out and do that, and you did it. You know, there's just like a couple songs that really stuck out to me that I wanted to really stick to for a second. Like one of them being Acorn Diet.
Mhm.
Like talk to me about how Acorn Diet came together.
I want to say that was one of the earlier ones that I wrote. A docent sent me the beat. I get a while ago now, and I just I had written in my notes app probably at some point like late last year, like December of last year, maybe early in the beginning of the year, like Cullen and kind of Chameleon. Because I was just thinking, like, everybody raps about cars with different paint jobs, right? But like, what if there were a car that could change kind of on command, or could change when it touches a different surface? Like, just like one of those random kind of one-off thoughts that eventually I might come back to and write a line about, and then that line turns into a song. But sometimes it turns into nothing. I wasn't really too focused when I wrote Acorn Diet, but it was a direct result of me trying Iberico pork for the first time, which I got from one day, maybe like a year and a half ago, when I was back home, when I was at my dad's spot in West Palm, and I went to Palm Beach Meats, which the owners just recently moved to Orlando. That's where we did the first Michelin Man dinner party. But they sell Campo Grande Iberico steaks, Iberico Secreto steaks, and it was it's pork that you don't have to cook to well, because it's such high quality pork, and it's imported from Spain, and these pigs are fed acorns months up until they're slaughtered and processed for food, because those acorns give them this nutty, intensely marbled flavor and texture. And I was eating that pork, like I just made a couple of the steaks, and I was like, this is the type of thing that I need to rap about. Like, this is something that's kind of going to fuel that next creative wave for me. I'm trying to think of what other like trigger points there were for that song. But it was really just the idea of that pork that's been floating around in my head. And I was like, okay, I'm making my food album now. It's time to get this song fully fleshed out the way that I think it needs to be. And once I had that song done, I could kind of feel like the album was coming together, even though I didn't even have like 2 or 3 songs written. But I was like, yeah, this is going to be an important one. I'm probably going to make this one a single. Shot the video in Oklahoma City, and that video in particular, which we had done at the time, because that was the second shoot that we did, second or third shoot that we did, I was like, yeah, this is going to be the intro to the Bvck of House series. Like, this is going to be, and this has to be single one, because this has to be the first video I drop. So nothing too involved in terms of writing the song, outside of just that pork being an inspiration that I wanted to give its proper due on a song. But that was my favorite, still one of my favorite Bvck of House videos, one of my favorite shoots, and one of my favorite dinners, honestly, at None Such. One of my favorite dinners of the whole trip, of the whole year.
Wow. So so it's really dope to hear that Acorn Diet is one of your favorite Bvck of House shoots.
Yeah.
My favorite Bvck of House shoot that I saw is for the song that comes right after this. Michelinman, is that how you pronounce it?
Oh, Mike Allstott, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Mike Allstott, damn. Mike Allstott is my favorite Bvck of House video that I've seen. This is the song with Boldy James. This is a song with the very explicit Draco reference on the hook, where you're talking about niggas flu flamming.
Yeah,
you know, which like made me happy, like as a Draco fan. Like it was cool to see you like work that in there, especially after everything you said about how much Draco and Valee inspired your artistry. So like, talk to me about that song and how that came together, and that Bvck of House shoot.
So that one, the idea behind that song was that I wanted to do something that I'd never done before, and it was write one of those songs, or like really what ended up being a verse and a hook that was an extended metaphor for something else. And I had this idea to rap about Kobe beef, like the most expensive cut of beef from Japan, but from the perspective of a drug lord, like a trap lord, somebody who is packaging, distributing, and selling the product, which when you break it down to the actual price is about $40 per zone, like $40 an ounce. Like it's insanely expensive, but it's also, I mean, damn near unattainable, like just by virtue of the cows needing to be from a particular genetic bloodline and the way that the cows are treated and all this kind of stuff, where it's a very intense process of making sure that this beef is like the highest possible quality yields that anybody can get. Yeah, I mean, the goal was, it was a bit shaky at first because I'd never done it, or the premise of trying to approach a song like that. But it was definitely one of those verses that I didn't sit down and write in one day or in one sitting. Like, I think I came back to it a few times over the course of a week, which is much longer than it takes me to create most of the things that I write. But I wanted to do it right. I wanted to do it in a way that wasn't betraying what the song was actually about, which I guess I'm talking about it now, but I hope that some people have kind of connected the dots, in that I'm not a trapper and I've never claimed to be one. So I hope people aren't taking the surface level lyricism too seriously, and I hope they're thinking to themselves like, wait, what's this really about? But even if they're not, that's okay. I just wanted to try one of those extended metaphor songs. Like the one that I was thinking of was Homecoming by Kanye, which was probably my favorite example of that. And even he kind of drops hints here and there. And
then he explicitly says it at the very end. You know?
Yeah, and I remember my first time listening to that, I was like, I think I know what he's doing. Then he said at the end, I was like, okay, I was on it. I was on it this whole time. Yeah. The one line that I put in there that I'm hoping that people will see as that, just a little bit more subtly than if you ain't know by now, I'm talking about Chi-Town. Just a little bit more subtle than that is like, it's the few that's only here for the feeling within the bones, which, like, if you think of it as feeling, you know, that's something that's often likened to drug users. Like that feeling that you get when you take them is why you take them. But what I literally wrote it as is feeling, like bone marrow, which is something that people like eat as a thing now too. And I like including those kind of lines because it kind of becomes a choose your own adventure at that point, depending on how you interpret it. So if you viewed it as filling, then you probably are saying to yourself like, oh, he's talking about steaks. Like he's in this meat locker or in this butchery rapping in front of these dudes who are cutting up a bunch of cow carcasses. Like obviously this song is about meat. Let me just like go back and re-listen to it with that in mind. But there are also going to be some people who listen to it at that top level, and either one is okay. Like I was saying before, you can't force people to understand everything. You give them the space to do it, and maybe 5-10 listens in, they're like, oh shit, this is actually what it's about. And that's honestly a lot cooler to me and more rewarding to me than somebody who gets it immediately. Like I think that means that you sat with it and you had some kind of inkling in your mind that this isn't exactly what you thought it was, which is cool. We shot the Bvck of House video at Range Road in Edmonton. I reached out to their restaurant account at some point last year, probably in March or April, and ended up connecting with them, Caitlin and Blair. Really, really nice couple, and went out to Edmonton with my manager / videographer Hunter, and we shot it. And then we sat down for what was my favorite tasting menu of the entire trip, and like we were in, and all of them were great. Like there was not a single tasting menu that we did that wasn't like, that was like less than amazing to me. This one just stood out because I'm a meat and potatoes kind of person, and it was very meat forward. Like they had their own butchery, they got their cow shipped in directly from somewhere in Alberta. There was just something. It was heavier than most tasting menus. I think most of them are kind of dainty by design, but this one was like 10, 13 courses of meat and potatoes, basically. But served in a way that was not as served in a way that was reminiscent of a more light tasting menu, but it still had those aspects of food that I really like. And right in the middle of that was the blackcurrant sorbet that inspired Saint Laurent Armor. And I think right after that, or maybe right before that, was this dish called Questionable Bits that was so good that I almost named the album Questionable Bits. I did for like 2 seconds on the title, then I switched it back. I was like, nah, I'm a prisoner of the moment right now. I'm not gonna like this pick if I actually make it that. And I eventually ended up with michelinman. But it was this dish that was a duck liver mousse with cognac cream sauce and morel mushrooms.
Wow.
And so that shit was that, like, I could have my barometer for how good these dishes are is, could I eat like a pound of this? Could I drink a gallon of this? And that was one of the things that, like, if you just put a gallon of that in a jug for me, that's kind of all I would need to get through a day. So that and then we shot in the butchery that they have. It was a restaurant, like a tasting menu type restaurant, but it also had a butchery on the side. We talked to Chef Blair about kind of setting up some of the cow carcasses in the room where they kind of pull them in through the back, just to have them kind of hanging in space. And there were 2 butchers there with us who were just breaking down the pieces for the dinner and for the parts that they would sell, because they, I guess, sold meat to their butchery as well. And that was definitely the coolest shoot in terms of what we had available to us. Like just being in that room with sides of cows that were bigger than my entire body, just hanging kind of floating elegantly amongst us was pretty cool. Yeah, that's how that shoot came together. The song came together in a different way than I would normally approach a song lyrically, but I wanted to give it something special, and I hope that comes through for people who are hearing it, even if it's not until the 10th or 15th time they get it. And then I A&R at Two Loss to see if he could connect me with Boldy for a feature, and he got it back to me. And I had no communication with him personally, so the fact that he came in with Long Live the Ruler meant a lot to me, because that really listened to the shit. Like, he wasn't just phoning it in, but like he gave me a really good verse. Clearly he knows the truth too. And yeah, that was cool. I had a huge smile on my face when I heard that verse, and I'm just glad the song came out as well as it did. And my homie Eerie Skies produced it, and he said, I didn't know what it was gonna turn into, but I was like, yeah, we got something with this one. And as soon as I wrote that verse, I was like, I think I did the thing that I was trying to do with this song, and Boldy just turned it up to the next level. So very happy about that one too.
Yeah, you should be, bro. Like, those 2 songs are like a really nice little 2-pack for me. Like, I run those 2 back and forth all the time. It's like,
glad to hear that, man.
Yeah, no, like they pair together real well because of that. And like, I wanna, and like, before we formally wrap this up, I wanna, we've been talking a lot about these behind Bvck of House shoots, and you already alluded to the first dinner y'all did in Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
You don't necessarily need to walk me through what happened at the dinner in Orlando. There's a video that you put out already that people can go watch. Go watch that. It's really cool, really illuminating. If you can catch the tour, we'll go do this thing. This thing is cool as hell. I'm gonna do it as soon as it comes to New York. I'm in. But I want to know. I want to know what the response has been to these Bvck of House shoots and how it felt to finally, because like once again, like you told me this idea 9 months ago, and we're at the point now where I'm getting to see it fully unfurl for everybody. Like you said you're gonna do it, and then you execute, and people are there and tasting the food and enjoying the ambiance, and you're talking people through it. Like between the Bvck of House shoots and the tasting, how does it, like how has the response been for you? Like how does it, like if you talk to people, have you like had conversations about like really just the whole experience, like the album, the tasting, and the Bvck of House shoots? Because like this is all like how have people responded and reacted to this experience you're offering up?
The response has been like unbelievable. And I say that very literally. Like it's difficult for me to believe that this is how people are responding, because I don't take any of this stuff for granted. And I know that I had a cool idea. I know that the people around me would be able to execute this idea, how I saw it. But I think there's still a lot of presumption that goes into doing, like, making it happen and putting it out and then expecting people to grab onto it the way that you kind of envision. Like you have to wait for that to happen. Like that happens if the idea is actually created the way that you wanted. And even if you did everything perfectly by your standards, that doesn't really mean anything in terms of how people receive it. So I went into releasing these content pieces and the album and the dinner party idea with very low expectations. And the album, I've never gotten feedback like this on any project I've ever released. I feel very grateful that I have the team that I have and that I have the producer homies that I have, because raps for rap's sake can only go so far. Part of building this world out has been selecting production that I think would fit like a dimly lit cocktail bar, and shooting videos for the Bvck of House shoot that aren't just like one shot, standard, unmoving, unflinching camera pointed right at me. It's like turning it into a video that has the refinement of a professionally shot music video, which is what my manager and my two videographer homies, Winston and Tinley, do as well, especially when the three of them combine for a shoot, which they did a few times for this for the Bvck of House series. I had a really good time making this, and I feel like kind of sentimental about it because this is the most focused thing, the most substantial project, the longest project I've ever put out. And the way people have been responding to it is just unlike any, like I've not experienced this before. I'm still responding to people who are telling me how much they like the project. And then I released a dinner party trailer on Monday, and I have chefs, like Michelin star chefs, messaging me like, yo, hit me when you get a chance. I'd love to set this up at my spot. And I'm like, you gotta pull up and come eat. Like, I'm in Chicago. Here's my number. Hit me whenever you're free. I'm like, this is what I dreamed of. Like, this is the future that I dreamed of. Obviously, I'd like to have a little bit more bread, so I don't have to think about how I'm going to stack to like set aside a travel budget for these shoots. But that aside, this is where I wanted to be as recently as 2 years ago, where I was like, it'd be cool to travel around the world, the country, the world, and just do music shit and connect with chefs and somehow combine those two things. And now I feel like it's happening. And I'm very, very grateful at everybody who's just given the project a spin, everybody who's watched the Bvck of House videos, just all that stuff, because like I said, I really don't, I don't take any of this stuff for granted. And the fact that people have been responding to it so strongly and calling it their album of the year and all kind of stuff is like, I didn't know how this felt until these past few weeks. And it really just makes me more motivated to knock this dinner party series out of the park and connect with the right people through that, and hopefully build it out into something that I can scale up into a more robust business venture, so I can start doing this in more places and start getting paid more to do it, and release merch and add all these pieces that make this that help me complete this world building task, because I'm still in the process of doing that. I'm still trying to figure out how to promote myself in a way that feels comfortable, and I'm still trying to figure out so much. But the first step in all of it is like put out a product that people like, and I feel like people have been liking it. So I'm real happy with how things have gone. I'm a bit overwhelmed in the best possible way, because I wasn't expecting this type of feedback, but I'm trying to lean into it and just tell everybody how grateful I am, like to their face, whether it's in person or digital, and just keep this moving throughout 2025 and hopefully build on it and make something really, really big out of this series. Because I know dinner party series that have been inspired by rap have been done before. That's definitely an idea. I'm not going to claim to be the first person to do this as a broad concept, but I think specifically as being the person who created the album, hosting a listening party, and partnering with Michelin star restaurants to do it, like I think I'm the first person to ever do that, and I'm gonna be riding that until I can't take it any further.
Yeah, man, as you should. Like it's, like it really is a novel concept, and I think it's one that's like it's gonna put you in. It's already putting you in different places,
yeah,
that you might not have been in otherwise. And like, it's like, speaking of like gratefulness and like putting it forward and all that, like I went back and double checked. It's so dope that you made sure to tag all the producers on these songs.
Oh yeah,
like all the producer names, at least on Spotify where I'm looking right now, like, yeah, like I didn't realize Mike Shab had produced Vonta Black.
Yeah.
And like Shab is incredible. I love everything he's doing.
Yeah. He's cold, man. Like,
yeah, he's fucking crazy, son. Like, yeah, no, his Suicide 2 that came out earlier this year is fucking amazing. One of my favorites of the year. Stoic is obviously super fucking dope. I love Stoic had my favorite beat on the Doechii album. Bullfrog is one of my favorite beats of the year. And Too Much to Zell on the Mavi album. Stoic's incredible. And then on top of that, my man Life of Tom, him and Life of Tom have a whole project together. Yeah. And anyway,
yeah, crazy.
Yeah, for real. But anyway, I don't know, like it's just cool to see you kind of extend that gratefulness through that specific avenue, because a lot of people don't do that. Like, which is crazy, right?
It's like, not that I wouldn't have done it if it weren't, but it's free. Like, it's just giving them the look. It's giving them the official look. Like, I can tag them and stuff. Like, those are the homies. I knew all of them except Mike Shab and Mike Summers prior to putting this project together. So like those are the homies. Like those are my friends, like people that I hang out with in real life. And when I'm in their city and they're in my city, like the same thing happens. So a few of them hit me and were like, yeah, I really appreciate you doing this. And I was like, bro, what are you talking about? Like that, why are you thanking me for doing this? That don't even make any sense.
This is easy.
I was like, this should be like, it shouldn't be a situation where you're saying that this is extraordinary to you. And I think in the past, like I didn't think about it. It was never something that I was against doing, but I was like, yeah, why am I not doing this? Like, I should be doing this every single release going forward. Like, why would, if a song blows, and this could be the difference between you having, like, whether these numbers matter or not, like they matter to somebody. They matter to somebody at these labels. They matter to somebody at these pub spots, whatever. Like, why would I not be putting all the homies in position to win, especially if we're winning alongside each other? Not that needs to be the case, but like that's what homies do, right? Like, they be hitting me like, I remember Erie, he was like, this is such a cool thing for you to do. I was like, bro, what?
Yeah.
This is just like, you'd be doing the same thing. Stosky would do the same thing. Pilot Kid would do the same thing. Like all these guys are just. I mean, that's what happens when you work with people that you actually fuck with in real life. I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that does really make the difference. Like even with the like when I do my live, when I do the real talks, like outside of like I've only done 6 of them.
Yeah.
But of those, like 5 of them were people that I'd already had on here, who I already had a relationship with, who I was who I was like, let's take this to the next level and do something in front of people and like make it a thing. And like you can tell based on the way we interact that it was cool. The only one who wasn't that beforehand was my man Niante, who I was already a fan of anyway. And like 10K and all of them, like those are like I love all of them. Like Mike and his whole team and Navin, they're amazing. And they were just, and then Tay was just kind enough to come do it, and we hit it off. I got lucky in the fact that we just so happened to hit it off.
Yeah.
Like that, like that really does make the difference and show that like, like you care not just about the craft, but about like the whole, I can't believe I'm about to do this. It's like you're using every part of the fucking cow, like that's what you're doing here. And that's like, that's one of the things that makes this project and this, I hate the word, but this rollout that you've done for it so special. This conversation could go for like another 3 hours.
Yeah, I swear.
Like this has been so smooth. But like for the last time in 2024, Ben, Black Sam, if your life was a movie, what would it be about?
Damn, I think I would approach it like Mike Allstott. I'd have to be like a high level Wagyu kingpin who's like feeling pressure from informants who have snuck into my camp, and I'm trying to run my Wagyu Kobe empire while fighting all the normal suspects of people who are trying to infiltrate and take my shit down from the inside. And I got mink coats on the whole time.
Hell yeah. No, you're trying to fight off the people throwing the Wahlburgers meat.
Yeah, exactly. They're trying
in your freezer.
They're trying to mix that USDA ground chuck into my shit. And I'm in there with like a polar bear femur cane with a mink made out of some unidentifiable animal from Madagascar and some Margiela boots. And I just got a different fit on in every scene, and that shit crazy.
Man. High quality shit all around, man. Like that's definitely one of the most vivid answers I've ever gotten. So the polar bear femur cane is everything.
Polar bear femur cane, yeah. It'd be like right on the line, like towing the line of blaxploitation absurdity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm all about that, bro. Yeah, no, like iceberg slim it down, son. But man, thank you so much for like, thank you for helping me to close this year out on such a cool note. Like this is I've been looking forward to this one. Like this project is really cool. I've been sitting with it a ton, and I'm gonna sit with it even more over the holidays. And like this is definitely one that I'm gonna live with. So like, thank you for the work and thank you for the trust, and like thank you for kind of sticking your neck out and creating something like unique and interesting and different. Like and like really really turning it into an experience that people are gonna want to. So do we have dates yet, or are there no dates yet?
Just locked in the first one in Denver on January 27th. I'm locking in Rogers, Arkansas, and that'll be the next one I lock in. And then I'm just working on the rest. So I still gotta nail down Vancouver, Edmonton, Detroit, probably 1 or 2 in Chicago at least, and then trying to get to Europe second half of the year. So But New York is on the way too. I'm gonna let you know as soon as I get New York set up. The idea is attracting a lot more attention than I thought, so it's going to be easier to get that going than I thought it would.
Beautiful, bro. That's super fast. But yeah, like anybody listening still, please keep an eye out for this if it comes to your city. Go eat good, listen to good music, and yeah, bro, like once again, just like thank you again for helping me to close this out, and thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, man. Thank you for inviting me, and for sitting with the project and just being like I knew you would, very thoughtful with the questions you ask, because most people aren't. Most interviewers, most people who are asking me questions about music are not doing that, and it's nice to be able to sit down and expand on things that aren't the run-of-the-mill questions. It just makes it really fun for me. It makes me a lot more engaged, actually. So I just appreciate you being a real one. Appreciate you just putting the art first with what you do and with what other artists do. And yeah, just looking forward to seeing you when I'm out in New York next.
Yeah, man, you already know, like this shit matters, and like you guys do it, so I want to pay that back. Like I'm not the only person who cares about this type of stuff. We aren't the only people who care about this type of shit. So like, you know, like this is for us, and like it's what it deserves. So I'm a you know, like you said, I'm gonna run this shit till the wheels fall off.
Yeah, of course, man.
Thanks for listening. Shout out to y'all for making it this far. And shout out to all the Black people listening too, because y'all really impeccable. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell a friend to come through next time. 1.